While most of the high-end headphones today try to focus on sounding as detailed and as explosive as possible, there is a select headphone once in a while that does something entirely different. This is the Aune AR5000. This is a $299 headphone made by Aune Audio. They don't really have many headphones right now in their product offer, but today we will see how they made one of the most relaxed sounding headphones out there. So the naming, AR5000. Actually it comes from the size of the driver, which is 50mm in diameter, so we have a pretty good dynamic driver. Also pretty good. Dynamic drivers are known to withstand high voltages and high levels of power very easily and without distorting. Usually planar magnetic drivers tend to be a bit more sensitive to voltage and are easier to burn than dynamic drivers. Those dynamic drivers are really resistant. This is not a headphone for those who enjoy listening very loudly, because the best sound with the AR5000 can be found with smoother, more relaxed music, as this is one of the most relaxed sounding headphones out there. We have an open back design, which means that there will be no passive noise isolation. Everything that is happening in your room will be right there with you, and you will leak your music to the outside. Still, it is not quite as loud as listening to speakers, so you may be able to avoid annoying others. The headphone has a patented mechanism, which I have seen some variations of. Of course, there aren't many ways that you can design a wearing mechanism for a headphone. And this is one of those headphones that uses a wide and a pretty solid headband to support the headphone weight. Also, they aren't very heavy. At 300 grams, it is one of the lighter headphones that I've reviewed, and they come with very thick ear pads. The ear pads are not symmetrical because they are thicker and much larger in the back of the ear than they are in the front. This creates a very unique sitting on your head, and the headphones have quite a bit of clamping force. They look quite good while being worn. I like the overall aesthetic. As far as I know, every single pair will be silver in color. I don't think there are any other colors available, and they feel pretty good. You don't really feel the weight of the headphones since the headband is quite wide and it does a good job at dispersing the weight, but you can feel the clamping force a bit. They don't really isolate me at all, so I can hear my voice as if I was talking without wearing headphones. And our AR5000 has two 3.5mm connectors at the ear cup side. This means that they will be compatible with most cables made for HiFiMan headphones, since they use the same standard. I have quite a few of those, for example the Lavry cableless Master Silver, Ultimate Silver. I also have this beautiful cable made by Aune. This is the Aune AR3. It is a cable made of copper and it is priced at $49. For $49, it is one of the best looking cables out there. It is reddish in color like copper should be, also fairly long. It has a flexible shape and it has a somewhat sticky, somewhat rubbery cover on the sheathing. This means that when it rubs against your clothes, it creates a deep sounding rumble instead of creating a high pitched noise. So you don't hear a distracting you hear more like a broo 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 sound while it brushes against your clothes. The cable connectors are color coded, so you know which is the left and which is the right earpiece. The headphones are not color coded, although you can read left on the left ear cup and right on the right ear cup, so you know which is which. I have noticed the tendency that the ear pads will move, for example when adjusting the headphones, so you will have to readjust the ear pad to be right at the vertical angle. I have noticed that if you try to move them, you can move them even all the way around because it is a circular headphone and the ear pad attaching mechanism is slightly loose. If you need a way to remember how to adjust them, please remember the thicker part goes in the back, the thinner part goes in the front, and that is about it. The AR3 cable doesn't really have much of a sound. It sounds pretty natural, pretty clean, and it is very similar to the default cable of the AR5000. But AR3, the new cable, comes with 4.4mm balanced connectors and it is more ergonomic, which I consider a big plus. Especially for $49, you can actually purchase one and not look back. The headphones are designed really well. They are made of plastic and metal, so the construction quality is quite reliable. They can be adjusted quite a bit. So for my head, I am at about half of the adjustment. So they should be able to accommodate both larger and wider heads, but also smaller and narrower heads, since you have quite a bit of adjustment. So I think I am starting with the most essential part. How do they feel to be worn? Because I will wear something more comfortable more, and then we'll talk about the sound. I think this is the most natural way. If you agree or disagree, let me know in the comments. The sound of the AR5000 is one of the most relaxed, smooth, wide and airy sounds that I've heard. They don't have a lot of bass, so the signature is pretty bright, which means that you get a pretty mid-range forward sound. The treble is quite open and it can be bright sounding, although the treble has a soft roll-off. The treble actually rolls off at about 10 kilohertz. So above 10 kilohertz, it starts to softly roll off. The bass can reach 20 hertz, but it is not very present. So the bass is rolled off by about 10 to 15 decibels compared to the mid-range. You get a very mid-centric sound where voices are presented forward, most instruments are presented more forward, and you get a lot of information in the mid-range. The advantage to this approach is that the sound is never fatiguing, and quite on the contrary, you can listen to the AR5000 for hours. Even if bass fatigues you, even if treble fatigues you, those are never fatiguing. I am also saying this because they have one of the smoothest textures that I've heard in a while. So when it comes to the dynamics and to the overall texturization of the sound, you hear a smooth sound. If you're coming from a headphone that is any bit grainy, you will hear this sound, the AR5000 sound, almost as if it had no textures. So the sound can be so smooth and so fluid that sometimes you even wonder, where are the textures? Where is a texture? With the AR5000, you really have to dig into your own mind to find the textures. This is how smooth they can sound. It is a pleasing signature and I can enjoy it a lot, even with rock, metal, electronic music, but it is a very relaxed signature. You only get the AR5000 if you want to feel relaxed, if you want to feel at home, if you are listening to something that can take advantage of this kind of signature. I've had a lot of fun with rock, with metal, with EDM, with pop, jazz, classical, although for most music I tend to prefer a bit more bass, so for me they are a bit bass light. If you are someone who enjoys a more mid-centric signature, you will like their sound quite a bit. They would remind me a bit of Sevga Peacock, although the Peacock had both more bass and also a sharper, more metallic treble. The AR5000 has a rolled off smooth treble that is all the way smooth. You basically can't even really hear the treble at times. And that is not something negative. The treble being rolled off by about 10 to 15 decibels compared to the mid-range means that you get the cymbals playing, but they are pushed very far in the back and they are very smooth. They are never aggressive, they never impose on music, and it is a really light and pleasing signature. I found that I like this signature quite a lot, although for my main listening courses I typically go for a brighter, bassier sound, typically V-shaped even, so those are completely the other way around, and I tend to prefer not necessarily a more dry sound, so I don't want a lot of textures, but I want some textures. So for me, AR5000 is one of the most relaxing, smooth, fluid and laid back sounding headphones. They aren't necessarily warm, they are not rich in the sound, so you'll hear a sound which is not rich, it is lean, it is smooth. Rich would mean a lot of textures, for example, like tubes provide. Tubes usually tend to enrichen the textures of a sound. The AR5000 tends to actually lower the amount of textures we get from the sound. And also the sound will be quite airy. The soundstage expands quite naturally, almost if I am listening inside of my own room with my speakers, right now the Pylon Audio Diamond 30, and I get this super wide soundstage. The sound is not pushed onto you, although the AR5000 can present the lead voices a bit closer to you as the listeners, so you get an intimate experience with the lead singer and usually the lead guitar, but just the lead guitar, and you get a more recessed experience from background instruments, especially effects are presented far in the background. They create a wide and deep soundstage. They create this feeling that there are no headphones involved, especially since they are so smooth. Usually when listening to music in a room, you get this kind of presentation where textures are just not very aggressive. In headphones, especially in EMs and earphones, the textures can be quite aggressive. They can be very textury, very grainy, usually with a lot of detail, while with speakers, typically textures are attenuated, both by room acoustics and by the air between you and the speakers, because the sound has to travel quite a bit and most speakers aren't tuned to be that aggressive. With AR5000, we don't have any of those issues. The sound is just open, it is fluid. With AR5000, we just have one of those signatures and tunings that really sounds like a speaker. They really sound like a high-end pair of speakers more than they sound like headphones. You get the same wide holographic soundstage, the same kind of instrument separation where instruments aren't surgically cut from each other, rather instruments combine to create a whole as the sound. So who is the AR5000 made for? I think it's made for someone who wants a relaxed sounding headphone, someone who has about $300 as a budget so they can explore this hobby a bit before committing to a more expensive pair of headphones, and for someone who is easily fatigued. Those will not be fatiguing even to the most sensitive of listeners. You will just place them on your head and enjoy the music. If you also enjoyed the video, please give it a like. It helps bump me up in the algorithm so that more people can see my video. Also, please do subscribe if you want to see more videos from me. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see each other really soon. Bye bye!